The day I realized I was stuck. There are moments in life that hit you like a quiet storm. No thunder, no lightning, just a deep silence that makes you finally hear yourself. Mine came one rainy evening. I was sitting on my bed, staring at the same old wallpaper that I'd looked at for years, but that night it looked different, almost mocking. My phone buzzed with another social media notification. Friends posting about new jobs, trips, and smiling faces. And there I was, in the same room, with the same tired mind, living the same repetitive day. That was the moment I realized something wasn't right. I wasn't happy, but more than that, I wasn't growing. Every day felt like pressing the replay button. I'd wake up late, scroll through my phone, rush through breakfast, do my work half-heartedly, waste hours online and tell myself, tomorrow I'll start changing. But tomorrow never came. It wasn't that I didn't have dreams. I had many. I wanted to be healthier, more focused, more confident, and maybe even start something of my own one day. But every time I tried to start, my motivation vanished as quickly as it came. I kept searching for a big secret, a sudden spark that would turn my life around. But all I found was disappointment and guilt. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and thought about where my life was heading. I wasn't miserable, but I wasn't proud either. I realized I was living by default, not by design, and that hit me hard. The truth is, we all get comfortable with mediocrity. We tell ourselves it's fine because at least it's not that bad. But that's the trap. I was slowly accepting a version of myself that wasn't even close to what I could be. The next morning, I woke up feeling drained but aware. I didn't feel like doing anything extraordinary, but I knew I needed to face the problem, not escape it. I made a cup of coffee and sat in front of the mirror. For the first time in years, I looked at myself. Not just my face, but the person behind it. My eyes looked tired, not because of lack of sleep, but because of unfulfilled potential. That morning, I asked myself a question that changed everything. What if I stopped waiting for motivation and started with something small, something I could do every day, no matter what? It wasn't a grand question, but it was real, because I finally understood that change doesn't happen when you feel ready. It happens when you start, even when you don't feel like it. I decided that day to search for that one small habit that could shift my life. Not a huge, unrealistic plan that would fade in a week, but something simple, something sustainable. But before finding it, I had to admit the truth. I had been my own biggest obstacle. I blamed time, luck, and circumstances, but deep down, I knew I was scared of consistency. See, doing something once is easy. Doing it every day, even when it's boring, that's where transformation hides. I spent that entire day reflecting. I turned off my phone, sat with a notebook, and wrote down everything that bothered me. My laziness, my lack of focus, my endless distractions. For every complaint, I wrote a question. What can I do about this? Slowly, I began to see patterns. I didn't need to fix everything overnight. I just needed to begin somewhere. By evening, something inside me shifted. It wasn't a burst of motivation. It was quiet determination. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. I didn't know what habit would change me yet, but I promised myself one thing. I would find it, and I would stick with it no matter what. That night, as I lay in bed, the rain had stopped. The world outside was silent. But inside me, something had begun to move. A sense of possibility, faint but real. I realized that being stuck wasn't the problem. Staying stuck was. And I wasn't going to do that anymore. Little did I know the next few days would lead me to a discovery so simple, yet so powerful, it would completely transform my life. But on that night, the night I realized I was stuck, I unknowingly took my first step toward becoming someone new. The unexpected discovery. After that night of reflection, I promised myself one thing. No more overthinking, no more waiting for the perfect time. I didn't know what habit would transform me, but I was determined to find it. I started small. Each morning, I woke up a little earlier and spent 10 minutes just sitting in silence, trying to gather my thoughts. At first, it felt strange, like I was wasting time doing nothing. But slowly, I realized something. For the first time in years, I was listening to myself. A few days later, while scrolling through YouTube, ironically the same place I used to waste hours, I stumbled upon a video titled, "The One Habit That Changed My Life Forever." Normally, I'd ignore such titles, but something made me click. The guy in the video wasn't a celebrity or a motivational speaker, just an ordinary person talking about how writing one page every morning changed everything for him. Writing one page? That sounded too simple. I almost laughed, but as I listened, his words began to make sense. He said, "When you write every morning, you're not just journaling. You're organizing your thoughts, facing your truth, and taking control of your mind before the world does." That line hit me deep. Taking control of your mind before the world does. That was exactly what I needed. I was tired of letting my day be controlled by notifications, stress, and random thoughts. Maybe, I thought, this could be my small beginning. The next morning, I grabbed an old notebook and a pen that barely worked. It wasn't fancy, but it was a start. I sat at my desk, stared at the blank page, and felt awkward. What was I supposed to write? My mind was blank, and part of me wanted to quit already. But then I remembered, it's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. So I wrote the first words that came to mind. I don't know what I'm doing, but I need to change. That was it, just one line. But something about it felt real, raw. For once, I wasn't pretending. I wrote a few more lines about how my days felt repetitive, how I wanted to feel alive again, how I didn't even know where to begin. By the time I stopped writing, only 5 minutes had passed. Yet I felt lighter, calmer, clearer. I didn't realize it then. But that tiny act of writing was the beginning of something much bigger. The next morning, I did it again. And then the next. Some days I wrote about my plans. Other days I just poured out my frustrations. But every page felt like a mirror, showing me my fears, my hopes, my excuses, and my strength. Within a week, I started to notice small changes. My thoughts were more organized. My mornings felt peaceful. Instead of waking up and grabbing my phone, I was facing myself first. It was strange how such a small act could shift my mood, my mindset, and even my decisions. I started becoming more intentional with my time. I stopped reacting to everything around me. Slowly, I began to lead my day instead of following it. But more than that, I started understanding myself, my patterns, my triggers, and what I truly wanted. Writing became my safe space, my mental reset button. It wasn't about being a writer, it was about being aware. Weeks passed and I didn't miss a single day. It became a sacred ritual, my moment of truth before the noise of the world began. And with every page I filled, I began to notice something remarkable. My confidence was growing. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet. The kind of confidence that comes when you realize you can trust yourself to show up. One morning, as I finished my journal entry, I looked out the window. The sun was rising, and for the first time in years, I felt aligned, like I was finally moving in the right direction. I didn't have all the answers, but I had momentum, and that was enough. That was the day I understood something powerful. You don't change your life by doing big things once. You change it by doing small things consistently. And for me, that small thing, that one habit, was simply showing up every morning to write. I had found the habit that would completely transform me, but I had no idea that the real transformation hadn't even begun yet. The struggle and the shift. At first, keeping up with my new habit felt easy, almost effortless. Every morning, I would wake up, make coffee, sit by the window, and write my thoughts. It felt good, freeing even. But like all good things, the honeymoon phase didn't last long. About 3 weeks in, life began to get noisy again. Work deadlines, family issues, unexpected distractions, they all piled up, and I began to slip. One morning, I overslept. Then another. It's fine, I told myself. I'll write later. But later never came. By the end of the week, my notebook sat untouched on my desk, and I felt that old heaviness creeping back in. It was shocking how quickly I fell back into old habits. I told myself it was just a break, but deep down, I knew I was slipping into the same cycle I had always been stuck in, starting strong, losing consistency, then giving up completely. One Sunday morning, I woke up feeling disappointed in myself. I walked over to my notebook, ran my fingers over the pages, and realized that I missed it. I missed that feeling of clarity, that small victory of writing something real every day. But another part of me whispered, "What's the point? You already failed." That's when I realized something powerful. The habit itself wasn't the hardest part. It was the discipline to return after failing. I made a choice that day. I wasn't going to restart from guilt. I was going to restart from self-respect. The next morning, I sat down again and opened to a blank page. This time, I didn't try to sound wise or motivated. I just wrote honestly. I missed a few days, but I'm here again. Maybe progress isn't TT about being perfect. Maybe it's about coming back every time you fall. That entry changed everything, because that's the day I truly understood what transformation meant. It's not about never slipping, it's about never staying down. From then on, I made a small rule for myself. No 0 days. It meant that no matter what happened, even if I was tired, stressed, or unmotivated, I would write something. Even if it was just one line, even if it made no sense. The goal wasn't to be perfect. The goal was to keep the chain alive. And slowly, that one rule began to reshape my entire mindset. Writing every day became more than just a habit. It became proof that I could trust myself. Each page filled was a reminder that I was capable of showing up, even when I didn't feel like it. I started noticing small shifts in my daily life. My focus improved. My conversations became more thoughtful. I felt calmer in stressful situations because I had learned how to process my emotions through writing instead of reacting to them. But the biggest change happened internally. I started to believe in myself again. You see, when you do something consistently, even something small, it rebuilds your relationship with yourself. You begin to see evidence that you can keep promises, and that changes everything. A few months in, I flipped through my notebook and realized how far I'd come. My first few pages were messy and uncertain, full of doubt, but as the days went by, my words grew stronger, clearer. It was like watching myself evolve on paper. That night, as I read through my old entries, I smiled. For the first time, I didn't feel stuck anymore. I felt in motion. Of course, there were still tough days, mornings where I didn't want to get out of bed, days when the words refused to come. But I had learned the secret. Showing up is more powerful than feeling ready. It's funny. The world tells us transformation is about big, dramatic moments. But in truth, it's built in silence, in those small, invisible acts of self-discipline that no one sees but you. Writing every day taught me something I wish I had known years ago. You don't need to move mountains to change your life. You just need to move yourself a little bit every day. And as I closed my notebook that night, I felt a quiet sense of pride. I wasn't just writing anymore. I was rebuilding myself. But I didn't realize the biggest transformation was still ahead of me. The new me, it's strange to look back now and realize how something so small, writing a single page each morning, could completely change who I am. What started as a simple habit slowly became the foundation of my entire mindset. I didn't notice the transformation day by day. It happened quietly, almost invisibly, until one day I woke up and realized I was no longer the same person who once felt stuck and lost. Months had passed since that first rainy night. My mornings had a rhythm now. Wake up, make coffee, open my notebook, and write. It wasn't about motivation anymore. It was about identity. I didn't have to remind myself to write. It had become a part of who I was, like breathing. One morning, I caught my reflection in the same mirror I used to avoid. But this time, I saw something different in my eyes. Clarity. I wasn't running from myself anymore. I'd become friends with my thoughts, my fears, and even my failures. Writing had taught me that nothing inside me was too dark or too heavy to face. The moment I wrote it down, it lost its power over me. And the changes didn't stop at my desk. They began to ripple through every corner of my life. I became more disciplined with my time. I stopped wasting hours on meaningless distractions because I finally understood what I valued. My focus improved, my energy was steady, and my goals, the same ones that once felt impossible, started to look achievable. People around me noticed too. Friends said I seemed calmer, more grounded. My conversations changed. I spoke with intention instead of just reacting. I didn't need to overthink as much because my mornings had already given my thoughts a place to go, onto the page, where they belonged. But the most powerful transformation was internal. For the first time in my life, I felt aligned. My thoughts, actions, and emotions finally pointed in the same direction. I wasn't chasing change anymore. I was living it. There was one morning in particular that I'll never forget. I was writing about a difficult week. Challenges at work, personal stress, and the usual noise of life. And yet, as I wrote, I realized something. I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't lost. I was steady. The same chaos that used to break me was now just part of the journey, and I was strong enough to handle it. That realization brought a smile to my face, because that was the moment I truly understood what transformation meant. It wasn't TT about becoming a completely different person. It was about becoming the version of myself that had always been waiting underneath the noise. I often think back to that first night, sitting in my room, feeling hopeless, staring at the rain outside. If someone had told me then that one small habit would lead to all this, I probably wouldn't have believed them. But now, I know the truth. Change doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing one thing, consistently, intentionally, and with heart. For me, that one thing was writing. For someone else, it might be exercising, reading, meditating, or simply walking in silence. The habit itself doesn't matter as much as the commitment behind it. Because once you prove to yourself that you can stay consistent with one small act, you open the door to every other change you've ever dreamed of. I closed my notebook that morning and took a deep breath. The sunlight spilled through the window, touching the pages filled with months of my life. My fears, my doubts, my hopes, my growth. Each page told a story of who I was and who I had become. I wasn't waiting for a new beginning anymore. I was living it, and that's when I finally realized transformation isn't about magic, luck, or motivation. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because the truth is, one habit can completely transform you. It transformed me, and if you let it, it can transform you too.